Nancy, what made you smile today?
What made me smile today? When my cat woke me up this morning, she scratched my hand like she always does to remind me that she needs to eat. And then if you try to like ignore her, she comes to the other side. If you like turn your back to her, comes to the other side and starts scratching again. So that always makes me smile because it's like, fucking A. Like why I got out of bed. Well, I mean, why I got out of bed today, besides the fact that thank God I woke up, you know, I needed to get things done, which sounds very like minuscule or unimportant, but I don't know, when I commit to something or agree to do something, I like to finish through, and there were certain little projects that needed to get finished, and that got me up and ready to go.
What had you commit to those projects?
What led me to commit to those projects? The one project I'm working on right now, to be honest, it was the founder. So I'm working on for a startup and helping out with business stuff and then some like finance and strategy stuff. But the founder, he's just so enthusiastic and charismatic and really one of the most kindest, warm people that I've met, and genuine, which is very important to me. And so having that type of energy around, if we're going to take over the world and we're going to change the world, is the type of energy I like to be around, because it keeps me grounded, it keeps me going. And yeah, so that was my, I guess I don't want to say the motivation, but definitely being invited to be part of that and knowing that I would be working with him made it an easy yes for me.
In your most difficult moments, what are your thoughts?
In my most difficult moments, I always think back to my parents, and you should never like compare your trial or tribulations to someone else, but I know my parents have overcome so much more than I can ever imagine or ever fully know the extent of what they've been through. But I always just think if they were able to get up and keep going and continue working hard, so can I. And so I try to make that an anchor for me of, you know, things suck, things are bad, but I'm very fortunate in so many other ways, and I owe it to them to continue moving forward.
What's a memory that comes to mind when you think of your parents working hard?
A memory that comes to mind, I never ever once saw my mom or dad take a day off because they were feeling sick or they were sick. Whether it was a cold, a flu, they were always up and ready to go to work. I mean, my mom with my younger brother literally worked up until the day she gave birth and was right back at it about a month later. And so that to me is the epitome of working hard, and they've taught me a lot of, working hard and taking pride in what I do. And I am privileged now that I'm able to layer in the working smart layer to it, that they didn't have an opportunity to quite experience or implement themselves. So yeah, that's what comes to mind when I think of my parents working hard.
During your challenging moments, what helps you?
During my challenging moments, what helps me, other than thinking about my parents and their hard work, I will say that the saying that sticks with me all the time is that when you think you've hit rock bottom, there's only up to go. So I know that, for whatever is challenging or for whatever I feel is hard, or if I consider that a loss, that's just that one finite moment in time, and there's only recovery or a come up to come from that. So that really helps me overcome, whatever like guilt or fear or anxiety may come with that challenge, and again, just try to continue moving forward.
What other resources would you say have supported you through these challenging moments?
Yeah, I think a resource, or one of them, has definitely been being comfortable with therapy. Just having that external resource to talk to, help you, give you a different point of view, um, help you see or navigate through your blind spots, has been very helpful. And I think unlearning some things that we pick up in our younger days has also been very helpful. And again, that's been through therapy, of being able to have someone help me reframe a certain way of thinking, or help me reframe memory I have, and all that together. I really do think helps you in your day-to-day, and how you overcome challenges, how you even just deal with people in your relationships, whether it's your husband, your wife, or even just a friend. And I think I always jokingly say that I always try and push everyone into therapy. I think for some reason, especially in BIPOC communities, we're afraid of therapy. It's seen as something negative, something that only crazy people do. But it's not. It's just meant to be a resource. No one's perfect. And I say, if you have access to it, leaning into that can be very beneficial, especially in your younger days.
How did you get over that hurdle of the cultural stigma?
I don't know that I innately ever had that cultural stigma in me. I think when I first went to therapy was when I first got to Berkeley in undergrad, and talk about feeling, I didn't know that's what it was called back then, but feeling like the imposter syndrome of, I don't belong here, this is not the place for me, I just got in because affirmative action, I don't belong here, and feeling this overwhelming sense of anxiety, and knowing that I was not in a healthy place, and I didn't have the tools or the vocabulary to know that was just anxiety, and that I was having panic attacks. But I knew that I wasn't, and I hate to use the word normal too, therapists will tell you we don't use the phrase normal, but I knew that it was not helpful for my day-to-day. And so I remember talking to my doctor about it and being referred to a therapist, and it felt like night and day. Again, being able to be given those tools to speak about my feelings in a way that I hadn't before, to be able to identify what's causing that anxiety, how do you overcome it. And again, I'll bring the phrase reframing, because it's all about just what your self-talk to yourself, and learning how to reframe those thoughts, again, night and day. And if you have access to it, I think it's helpful. Even if you're not going through panic attacks or a bout of depression, it again is just having someone to bounce back ideas to you, and that goes a long way.
You mentioned wins and losses. What's an example of a win and a loss that you regularly think about?
That's a great question. So a thought or a loss, a win or a loss that I've been thinking about, or that comes up a lot, is coming out of business school, I accepted a job offer to go do consulting work. I knew that it wasn't what I really wanted to do, but at that moment in time, it's an amazing paid job. This is what everyone from business school does. How am I going to say no to it? But then at the same time, I knew that I wanted to pursue real estate. And so I accepted the job. This firm, this is why I always believe things are meant to happen the way they happen. This firm didn't want me, their start date was not till September or October. And I'm like, unlike most people, if I'm not working and I don't have any income, how am I going to live? So I thought, okay, this will be a good opportunity to try a real estate internship and go see if it's something that I like or don't. And there's less of a pressure, because now I know I have this safety blanket of a job offer. I can go take a risk for these 4 or 5 months in between graduating and starting the full-time job. And so I ended up going to Florida to do this real estate internship that became a job offer. And at that moment in time, it felt like, oh my God, I'm deciding my entire fate right now. Am I going to stick with this nondescript, almost startup little shop, or am I going to go to this established consulting firm? And something in me just said, take the risk. I mean, just take it. And so to me, that was getting a consulting job felt like a big win, because it felt like a validation, to be honest, of like, okay, you are one of the chosen ones. But I knew that going and moving forward with that role was going to be a loss for who I really am and what I really wanted to do. I am, again, just happenstance of time that I was able to find this role in Florida, and it panned out. And I wouldn't change anything about that, but that is my win and loss, is, you know, having gotten that validation and then losing it, but I lost it under my own terms. And that is bittersweet. And I don't look back, but it comes up in my mind every now and then, because I do think that I was lucky, and I hate to use the word lucky, but again, it was just a moment of preparation, meeting an opportunity, and it working out.
In this era of your life, what's life teaching you?
Oh, that's a great question. What is life teaching me? Yeah, I think at this era, it's teaching me to slow down a little bit and to take every day without planning too much for that day. This stage of my life, I've learned that so much can happen that you didn't plan. And it's about just, in a way, going with the flow and taking chances when opportunities present themselves. And I'm very thankful to have that opportunity to go through my life at this moment in time in that manner.
For the kind of person you are, driven, ambitious, goal-oriented, who's accomplished so much, how has it felt to slow down?
It's felt good. And I guess when I say slow down, it doesn't mean you stop still working hard, but it's about being a little bit more intentional and not just saying yes for the sake of saying yes. And I was just telling you earlier, I struggle with saying no. And it's something that with slowing down and being able to be more intentional and making sure that the projects I do select are meaningful to me, whether it is the work specifically or the people that are involved with them that give me that extra energy and boost I need. I guess that's what I mean when I say slow down. But I apologize, I totally forgot what the question was. I was talking.
For someone who's as accomplished and driven as you are,
Right.
What does slowing down look like?
Yeah, slowing down definitely does not entail not still working and like doing projects or working towards something, but it's just being more intentional about the projects I do get involved with, and more importantly, the people that I want to involve myself with and be a part of my day-to-day. So slowing down really feels like a privilege, but I do feel I've worked hard enough to get to this point of being able to be selective and intentional in that way. So it feels amazing. Sometimes a little daunting, because I'm used to being in that corporate environment or that corporate mindset of go, go, go and moving up a ladder, but deciding to take ownership of your life and being more intentional in that way is also very liberating. So I'm learning to put the fear aside and lean on the good parts of it.
To what extent now are you comfortable with fear?
I think I'm very comfortable with fear. I mean, that feeling in the pit of my belly still hasn't fully gone away, but I've learned to live with it, and I've learned that it is meant to be a guardrail of just reminding me of things to watch out for, to think about, but it's not meant to be what I lean on to make a decision. And so that's taken some practice, but I think I've had enough wins and losses along the way to teach me how to listen to that feeling in my belly when it does come up.
What would you do if today was your last day on Earth?
If today were my last day on Earth, I would want to spend a day with my family, all my crazy ass brothers, my 10 wild nieces and nephews running all around my mom's small little 700 square foot home. But that's the memory that I would want to go with. My brothers laughing, making fun of me and my husband, and the kids being kids, and that to me would be a good last day.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I've ever received is fail up. And I don't think I heard that until much later in life. But the idea is, every failure can be a success. The idea that there's a lesson to be learned. Even if you didn't get that job offer you wanted, you at least got through the interview stages all the way to that final interview. That means your interview skills are improving. If you didn't get into the business school you wanted, well, you made it through a review process. You made new networks. You met new people. What are you going to do with that? And that to me is what failing up is. It's getting rid of the fear of not having like a tangible like trophy at the end of something, but just knowing that it was about the experience. And from every experience, comes an opportunity.
What should I ask the next person?
I guess for the next person, I would want you to ask, or what would be great to get someone's thought on is, where do they see the U.S. in 10, 12 years? There's just been a lot going on, and it would be good to get someone else's thoughts on that. And I don't know if I necessarily mean politically or socially, maybe a little bit of both, but where do they see us a decade down the road? What does it mean to me to be Latina? That's a tough one. I've been asked this before, and whenever gets asked, all I think is of this Spanish saying called paso corto, vista larga, which to translate it somewhat means like take small steps but keep thinking forward. And for me, that's what being Latina has meant. My parents came to the US, that was their small step, but they were thinking long term about their kids and their family, and just being able to offer us more opportunity. They didn't understand what that meant, but they knew that we would get that here and not, in our home country. And so that to me has been very defining of what it means to be Latina, of just taking those small steps, taking those risks, not knowing really how they're gonna pan out, but with this long-term goal of just helping your family, helping your community, and trying to thrive where you're at.
Nancy, what does it mean to be Latina in the United States?
In the United States? Oof. I feel that if you had asked me that in 2014, it would be a different response than it is now. But to be Latina in the United States, or be Latino in the United States, it means really being the backbone of this country. Now that I'm working for this food and beverage startup, 90% of our kitchen staff is Latino. You go to most of the hospitality assets around here in Anaheim and the staff are Latino, and everywhere you go is people that look and sound like me, taking those what are considered menial hourly jobs that keep these businesses running and keep these businesses going and continue generating incomes. And yeah, Latinos have truly become the backbone, and I know that it's a matter of time before we become the business owners and the leaders. And it's been slow progress, but we're getting there.